صلى الله عليه وسلم اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى في سننه بسند صحيح عن أبي أمامة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Tonight's hadith is from the collection of Abu Dawood, authentic chain of narration narrated to us by Abi Umama رضي الله عنه. And this is continuing in our theme of Jannah hacks, or the low-hanging fruit opportunities to do good and gain exceptional amount of reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these deeds, if we practice them, they're quite easy to accomplish. Tonight's maybe a little bit more difficult, but still I think relatively easy, inshallah ta'ala, based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إني زعيم ببيت في ربض الجنة لمن ترك المراء وإن كان محقا وإني زعيم ببيت في وسط الجنة لمن ترك الكذب وإن كان مازحا وإني زعيم ببيت في أعلى الجنة لمن حسن خلقه. The Prophet ﷺ actually is a beautiful hadith, explains to us, he actually guarantees ﷺ homes in Jannah for three types of people. He says ﷺ, I guarantee a house for a person in the outskirts of Jannah if for those who leave argumentation, even if they are right. If you leave argumentation, if you leave an argument, even if you're right, the Prophet ﷺ promises you a house in the outskirts of Jannah. And then the Prophet ﷺ continues and says, I promise a house in the middle of Jannah to the person who leaves lying even if they're joking, or even when they're joking. And then the Prophet ﷺ says one last thing, and he says, I promise a house in the highest level of Jannah to the person who refines and perfects their character. So we see here that the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith tells us how to carry and conduct ourselves, how we should talk and how we should behave. And these are critical to be able to land yourself into Jannah. In fact, what this hadith is telling us is good behavior, good conduct, or character is not an option. It's really the currency. It's your ticket to get into Jannah, and it's your currency to buy real estate in Jannah. And without that real currency, a person won't be able to even sit on the outskirts of Jannah. And what's the first of the three is the Prophet ﷺ says the person who gets the house in the guaranteed the house on the outskirts of Jannah is the person who leaves argument. An argument, even if they're right. Even if they're right. Subhanallah, I mean, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. The human being loves to argue. It can be started as a normal conversation, it ends up in left field where people are discussing, it becomes heated and argumentation. And the Prophet ﷺ says, he's teaching us actually that the person who leaves argumentation, even if they're right, is actually the strong person. This is not a weakness to leave an argument. Whether you're right or wrong, especially when you're right, it's not weakness to leave an argument. Why isn't it a weakness? Why is it a strength? It's because you have control over your nafs. You have control over your ego. It's not about just trying to prove yourself right. And that's what people try to do. At the end of the day, when we talk and there's an argument that starts, the whole point of the discussion is to reveal the truth, not to make a point. And so if that process of trying to reveal the truth starts to cause a clash, then really it's not the best time that anyone is going to really accept the truth at this point, even if it comes from you. So if that's your objective, is to present the truth, and it leads into this conflict, then it's best to leave that discussion to another time. And the Prophet ﷺ promises a house in the outskirts of Jannah. And we see this very common in our homes, particularly between spouses. Arguments happen over sometimes irrelevant or material things. And it is important, even if you feel like you're right, to preserve the peace in your home, because that is more important than causing a rift or putting a wedge in a relationship, whether it's with your spouse or anybody else. And so even if you feel like you're right and you're in an argument, leave that argument, be kind and gentle, and don't hurt the other person's feelings, even though if you're right. And the Prophet ﷺ is telling us peace before pride. preserve the peace before pride. Okay. The second is the house in the middle of Jannah, and that is talking about the Prophet ﷺ, is talking about the person who always says the truth, or leaves lying, even if it's during joking. And because of the sake of time, I'll just focus on, obviously we know that lying isn't part of the character of the believer, but especially when joking, because oftentimes people say, oh, I'm just joking, it's just a joke, take it easy, akhi, it's not a big deal. And most jokes may be trivial, but the Prophet ﷺ is warning us to lie for entertainment, even if it causes somebody to laugh. And why is that? Is because that could normalize dishonesty. And normalizing dishonesty, it starts to create that kind of that culture of, what's right, what's wrong over time starts to become gray. And now people start to use this as, and this is very prevalent in our society, right? And so Islam, the fact that you get a home in the middle of Jannah for leaving lying, especially when you're joking, right, places a lot on integrity. Islam really focuses on the integrity of the human being. And finally, the last, and by the way, that doesn't mean you can't joke and laugh. You can joke and laugh, just be clean and honest about it. And then the last part of having a home in the highest level of Jannah is the person who has the best of character, who refines their character, whether it's honesty, generosity, kindness, selflessness, etc. Right? Works on themselves to try to get that the highest level of Jannah, and follows in the footsteps of the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was the best of character, alayhi salatu wasalam. And so pick peace over pride. Pick honesty over laughter, and pick character over convenience. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, perhaps that if we refine that architecture in our hearts, He builds us homes that are a reflection of the mirror of our inside. But I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to be of those people who attain these highest ranks in Jannah. بارك الله فيكم. يروي أبو داود في سننه بسند صحيح عن أبي أمامة رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إني زعيم ببيت في ربض الجنة لمن ترك المراء وإن كان محقا وإني زعيم ببيت في وسط الجنة لمن ترك الكذب وإن كان مازحا وإني زعيم